Motion passes. Welcome back. I hope you gain new insights from your conversations in the open space sessions. I'm first going to invite our treasurer, Craig Butler, to give his report. And then that will take more than 20 minutes, and then we'll do the eco-justice back on schedule.
Is this on?
It-
Okay.
Just
Can
start
you all hear me? Sounds like you can. Hi. Well, I was happy, welcome back. I was happy to accept the offer of fitting in between here and dinner so I could show for once that a finance guy can be flexible. This is my big chance.
All right, then.
I'm going to mostly update you today on how last year ended. I know last year seems very far away. There was a whole different person president and all that. The figures in this report are as at the end of last year. They're changing a little. They've changed a little as some more income related to GAs come in and other things have gone on. But this is about the way the year's going to close and go into our final audit, which will be done in April for 2016. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how per capita and pledging are going in 2017 and so forth. So if we go to the next chart, I think we have a lot to be grateful for in 2016. The GA team did a tremendous amount of work, and GA 22, while it's not completely closed, we still had, Cheryl Carolee told me out there that we actually had someone pay for a tour that they took in June last year on GA. Last week, we think most of the expenses are in and most of the income, and we closed with a net gain, a small net gain, and have sent some money on to St. Louis. So, and as you know, we had this personnel reorganization thing going on, and that was not totally budgeted, particularly retention plans. But yet, in spite of all this, we go to the next chart, please. We also had some lucky breaks and good fortune from a finance point of view, and a lot to thank you and your churches for. First of all, our per capita giving ended up only 2% under the target, and that is much better than it's been. So this was a very healthy development. And I will show you a graph that puts that into perspective versus previous year. Secondly, our mission service giving was 8.5% over the budgeted amount, which is outstanding. See why I was so eager to talk to you? I had all these good news. We also received a couple of loan payoffs, which help us with the flexibility throughout the year. Extra cash is always nice to have around. And the markets, the stock and bond markets, had a very good year overall. The results of this were, next chart please, that we ended up in an overall very positive financial position with a $112,000 operating gain, and our reserves and endowment funds, between the two of them, increased $111,000. So that's very nice. And as you can see from the assets to liability ratio, 48 to 1, we are very, very solvent. So kudos to all our committees, all of our hardworking financial staff, and so forth, for turning in a great year. And again, to you churches for your generosity and support. Next chart. So I'll go through some of the results. The big thing on this, I hope you can see all these bars, but there's a great big tall one on Fund 4, or the endowment. And there's a positive one on Fund 1, or the administration fund. And there's two slightly negative ones, Funds 2 and 3, which were programs and designated or reserves. So what that means is you can tell right away we had a great year. Endowment made up for everything that was a problem anywhere else. Practically, in fact, the administration fund as well made up for the total deficit in the reserves and the program fund. We closed 2016 in an overall positive financial position and within plan across all funds, with the exception of the program and the reserves funds. We had to dip into our reserves a little bit because of the extra personnel costs. And so at the end of 2016, it had an operating loss of $19,000, and the program fund had one of about $14,000. But again, those were made up for by good results in the administration fund. It came in more $33,000 to the good. We have taken care of the deficits. We've moved money from the endowment, interest and dividends we received in the endowment to plug those holes. And the operating gain in the administration fund was used to pay for an emergency server upgrade we had to have in the Presbytery offices. And the remaining about $27,000 has been moved to administrative reserves to backfill them. Next chart, Steve. I won't talk about Fund 1 again. I just did. What led to the program deficit of $14,000? Well, both revenue and expenses were significantly under budget. The revenues because we transferred less money from reserves than we budgeted, and that's good. But the expenses because we spent less on program ministry items, and that may or may not be good. In fact, it might be bad if we're not spending what we budget on programs. I mentioned that per capita income was only 2% below the budgeted $491,000. It was $481,000. And that was a nice increase. Partnership giving was $654,000 versus a target of $603,000. So 8.5% up, or above its budget. Direct admission support was very close to its budget at $18,560. It came in about $19,100. Senate block amount was exactly on its budget. We ended up not making as many transfers from reserves as we budgeted because there was less spending in program ministry groups, but there was also a $139,000 transfer from reserves for the GA 222 meeting. Events revenue was significantly down versus budget, but part of it was a good reason, and I want to give yet another shout out to Moreland Presbyterian Church because they handled the triennium event for us. So there was a bunch of income that would come in usually for that event that didn't. There's also expenses that we would have shelled out that we didn't, and it comes out even, but we sure appreciate triennium taking that on for us, especially in a year when we had a GA. So it led to less work, and we're really appreciative of their work. Next chart. Let's look at the expense side. We're right on around per capita what we gave to GA and Synod. There was a small difference because we had the number of members across the Presbytery a little wrong. We underspent on ministry groups as noted above, especially the congregational resourcing groups. I think it was it Don that mentioned they're on hold temporarily. And we ran a tight ship in the administrative department. Most committees spent less in their budgets, and no committee significantly overspent. GA support was $18,500 higher than we budgeted because we had more mission giving. So we sent more to GA. That's a good thing. Administrative offices had an unplanned expense to upgrade the network firewall for the office, but that exceeded the budget only by a few $100s. But it was personnel, the one very far on the right, where the blue bar is higher than the red bar, and that's the effect of the retention plans and the other items associated with changing the revenue plan, the personnel plan in the middle of the year. Next chart, please. Oh, don't do that. Here is the history of per capita giving in this presbytery over the last, I guess it's 15 years. And you'll see we were coasting down, starting to recover in 2009, and then we had this kind of economic problem. And it really took a turn down and really hit bottomed out in 2014. That's why I put 2014 there. The last 2 years it's turned up. And we got very close. Notice how close the blue line is to the red line now. We got very close to the budget for the first time since 2009. So let's keep that going. Next chart. And this is partnership giving. Look at that red line cross the green line for the first time. in like ever. So let's definitely keep that going. And the amount of pledging turned back up last year. In fact, exceeded what we had in pledges 2 years ago. We want to keep that going as well. It really helps if your church tells us what you can give for mission giving. Even if it's zero, at least we have an idea of what is coming in and we can plan for it. Next chart. Our designated funds. It's a pie chart. What is, so what? What's missing here is our total assets after all these shifts back and forth increased $31,220, mostly due to increases in stock and bond prices. But we also had the green slice of the pie contracted a lot because we had a whole bunch of money saved in there for GA that's no longer with us. So now the administrative unrestricted and the program unrestricted are a larger part of the pie. And that's probably a good thing too. It's easier to work with if things are unrestricted. I took off the chart because I was concerned about your ability to read it, but I had a bar graph of the Barnabas funds, the Korean church funds, and the Vitality funds. And I am watching closely the Barnabas funds because our total balance in that reserve is now less than $200,000 because of all the grants we gave out last year, and we have about 18 months left at our current run rate. So I am watching that very carefully, and we've got to go find a source to recharge that fund. We're in a similar case with the Vitality funds. That led to Rod Hagen's reading me out from the podium earlier today. Let's go to the next chart, and I'll talk a little bit of how our investments did. So you see on the top, our reserves went up $31,000 between 2015 and 2016, or across 2016. Our endowment went up almost $80,000. We have two managers. One's called Headwater Investment Group in McMinnville. The other, about 37% of our funds, are placed with the Presbyterian Foundation in the form of New Covenant mutual funds. Between the two of them, they turned in a return of 7.1%. Even after we put some money from those grant payoffs and other things into those funds. That's against their own benchmarks of 6.8. So they beat their benchmarks, and that was really good. Not only that, but they beat the very simple benchmark that I always use, which is let's put 60% into stocks and 40% into bonds, and use the S&P 500 for the stocks and the aggregate for the bonds, and that would have been 5.1%. So they beat that nicely. So again, good management there. And we're off to a very good start in 2017. The two portfolios are up 3.5% as of the end of February. So we've almost done half as well in 2017 as we did all in 2016. Of course, it could go back down. Such is life. Last chart, Steve. So I just want to talk about 2017. What could derail us keeping this going? We have to get our per capita in. We have to keep paying it. I'd like to show that next year that those two lines got even closer together. We have to get our mission service giving in. Please pledge. I put a copy of the form. You can get this off the Presbytery's website on the documents part. It's a one-page form front and back where you indicate how much you can give in mission giving, how much for the seminary fund, and a number of other for GA projects and so forth. As of March 7th, we have 24 pledges in for $220,960 of mission giving, $2,026 to the Theological Education Fund, and $8,800 for GA projects. So we haven't heard from a lot of churches, and I would certainly like to hear from a lot more, and soon. So please take this back to your congregations and say, have we turned in our pledge form to Presbytery? And thank you. And per capita in February we've received $217,000 or so on a $499,000 budget. So we need to get checks from a lot of you, and we're running a bit behind where we should be. So that was 2016. We have a lot to be grateful for. Net is a very good year, even in fact of a couple of challenging headwinds. And I want to end by thanking you, as always, for your generosity and support of this presbytery. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you very much, Craig. So I'd like to invite the Eco-Justice team to provide an announcement.
Good evening. I'm Bernadine Anderson, and I am an elder from Salem Westminster Presbyterian Church, but the hat I'm wearing this evening is as a member of our own Presbytery of the Cascades Eco-Justice team. And we brought to you today, and are very grateful for your attendance and support, a workshop this morning with Reverend Woodley looking at the doctrine of discovery, and just this evening in the open space, a sharing with Reverend Eric Clark to help us understand where we stand with Standing Rock. And I appreciate both of these people and their energy, their empathy, their call to action. And this is what we bring to you as the Eco-Justice team of the Presbytery. We're offering you opportunities to touch God's creation and to look at it through the eyes of our First Nations tribal traditions. We urge you to consider, if you attended this morning or this afternoon, we urge you to continue this exploration, and we provide for you some activities to help you do that. At our display board, you saw a postcard that lists this upcoming year's opportunities. Eco-Justice has had for a couple of years at least the idea of getting you out into God's creation with kayak trips and many other things. We're continuing that tradition, but we're adding to that to look through the eyes of our native peoples and help us see that link to our land. I have 4 slides, and I'm sorry to the person that's doing them. I'm going to do them a little out of order. Maybe not. Maybe I don't get to. But I would like, if possible, I'd like to look at our 4th slide. And I'm going to help you walk through the seasons of what we're offering you. And I don't have my glasses on, so it could be anything up there. But we would like to help you walk through the season. So our first offering to you this spring is an information from OPB, Oregon's Experience documentary, that relates to our interest in tribal treaties. Oregon Experience presents Broken Treaties. This is airing March 20th at 9 p.m. And it introduces viewers to the tribes of our state and explores a thread of the Oregon story that hasn't been very well told over the years. That information is also on this card. We're also offering to you, slide 2, have you ever heard the phrase gone fishing? Well, you can make this happen by joining us for a fly fishing trip, on June 9th and 10th, 2017, and this will be led by tribal fishers, the Little Leafs, from Warm Springs. This is a day-long trip with reflections and exploration and just simply touching that real world. Reservations and fishing licenses are necessary, and we have a sign-up sheet at our display. I think it's very meaningful, and I hope you will participate in that early summer, late spring event. Now on slide 3, we take you into the fall. And we look at the opportunity available with collaboration with the Presbyterians for Earth Care and our own Presbytery for Cascades Eco-Justice, presenting this national conference celebrating and honoring the rich history of the waters of the Columbia Gorge and the ecological philosophy of our Native Americans, which are integral to the history and life of the area. The title of this is Blessing the Waters of Life, Healing and justice for our watersheds. This will be a meaningful, active, connections-building event. Spirit of the Salmon special immersion event is being held September 25th to 26th with a lot of special events, a visit to Celilo Falls, and many, many other things. The conference is at Manuka. You can pick up a save the date card also back there. A way you can help make this happen is providing scholarships for persons from your church to attend. Consider this as an investment in the Earth Care discipleship of our faith. Please see the poster, the brochures, the websites for detailed information. And note that there's a variety of registration cost options. I would like to leave you with this thought. Revelations 22:17 says, "The Spirit and the bride say, 'Come.' And let everyone who hears say, 'Come.' And let everyone who is thirsty come. Let anyone who wishes to take the water of life as a gift. Water is indeed a precious gift, and there's much in our Christian faith to reclaim and honor it." We enjoy having your company on our team, and we have a lot of fun, and we go a lot of places. So that sign up is back there as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deanie. Sounds like a lot of fascinating activities coming up. Cool. So I'm going to forge ahead with new business, even though we're 2 minutes early. 1 minute, depends on what watch you look at. So, it is now time for new business that has not been docketed yet for this meeting. The Presbytery bylaws provide for new business to be introduced at the end of the first part of the meeting, right before the dinner break, and that's where we are right now. We will now receive items of new business. We will docket these for discussion and action at a later time, or refer them to an appropriate body or individual during the dinner break and announce the action when we resume business tomorrow morning. So does anyone have new business to present to us? Nobody wants us to write a letter with 200 people in the room editing it? This is too easy. This is just too easy. I love it. If you use the microphone.
Hi, Becky Strader from Monmouth again. A couple of us were talking at one of the breaks about this year being an anniversary of the Japanese internment. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to not, I'll talk to you. I'm not trying to, trying to not.
Well, hold it, turn it up so that
Okay.
it's...
Okay, I was just trying to stand away from it. Okay, and I just wondered if there was anybody that had an interest in doing some kind of pilgrimage or something to Tule Lake to just explore that. I didn't know that growing up, and I grew up in Oregon, pretty close to Tule Lake. I mean, relatively. And I'm curious about that. So this isn't new business. I was just kind of wondering if that's something anybody'd want to, I don't even know where to ask to refer it to.
So if anyone is interested in pursuing that thought, they can see you during
Sure.
dinner.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So, yes, sir. Oh, thank you. This is just an announcement. It's not really new business. The choir that sings tomorrow morning at worship will welcome anybody who wants to sing with them. All you need to do is show up tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't sing, so I don't need to be worried about that. So we had no new business presented, and the next item is dinner. Let us pray. To the God of many faiths, To the God whom many faiths revere, we thank you for this opportunity to consider our future with our own Cascades Presbytery family of Christ and to interact with our neighbors in our greater world. We thank you for the opportunity to work together side by side as we pioneer new life pathways. Let this time and this meal feed our bodies and our souls and strengthen our connections with each other. Amen. So, dinner for most of us is downstairs, and we come back here at 6:45. 6:45. 6:45.